Francis Heiliger, you recognize.
It means the best candidate mightn't get it if we don't pick and choose it and who won't do it. Usually it has a whole entire personnel department and it's called advertising, but I digress. Good morning to my colleagues, to the people of the territory. Good morning to the testifiers. My first set of questions, during the testimony that was read into the record, one of the things you spoke about how the involvement in closer interaction with the community and how this is supposed to help the police department. Have you seen any major changes since that interaction, has started?
Yeah, thank you for that question, Senator. We have seen immense change. I had the chiefs here with me today, and I would like them to speak about that. Let's begin with Deputy Chief Cornelius.
Senator, good morning. Cornelius St. Croix. Yes, in terms of with the public, yes, we have noticed an increase. They speak to us more and give more information as it relates to incidents that are occurring in our territory.
And has this helped you guys to solve any crimes? Because now you're getting more information for the public. Is it assisting you in that way?
Definitely, Senator. It is.
Anyone from the St. Thomas St. John district?
Stephen Phillip, Chief of Police for the St. Thomas St. John Water District. Yes, I've seen a great increase of partnership with the community. This year in the St. Thomas District, we started off kind of rough with actually 7 homicides. With that being said, during that 7 homicides, we actually got 4 homicides solved. Arrests was made out of those 7 homicides. And that was an involvement of the community. Community coming out and letting us, the police department, know what is happening. The community is frustrated. We are frustrated. So they're out there and they actually give me a call or they call somebody who they trust. And we get the job done. I
am very happy to hear that. Because one of the things we've always noted that when a community is more, they feel safe or they're trusting more of law enforcement, you're going to get these types of results. And that is where we need to continue pushing towards. One of the things, I live up in Canton area. Sometimes I am up by Round the Field area. And up in that area seems to be a hotbed for bullets and guns and noises. I'm literally sometimes at night trying to figure out the types of guns these things are. And some of them don't sound like normal weapons. They sound like you're on a battlefield. But the one thing I don't ever seem to hear is a siren coming right after. I literally don't hear it. I don't hear any interaction as to police presence shows up. I just don't hear it. So can someone tell me with these spot shotters and all these different types of new changes and policies that you guys are attempting to do, how do we improve this and trying to get some of these weapons off of the street?
Well, Stephen Phillip again, Chief of Police for the St. Thomas St. John Water in the district. When shots are being fired in certain areas, we want to understand, Irene, officer safety, one is paramount in anything we do. Basically, we investigate and we have our intel units. And actually, we've been successful in making some arrests in individuals actually in certain areas. And this is an ongoing situation. The firearms are coming in to our territory all the time. We do different initiatives with our federal partners where we do enforcement at the airport and different areas of the island. So we are doing our different initiative and it's actually working out with the ShotSpotter technology, because with the ShotSpotter technology, it tells us a location, an area, but not exact area actually where it is. But we're upgrading with the ShotSpotter technology in the future, and we'll get some good stuff coming out of that technology. I won't say everything because, bad guys listen to the Senate
I
also
totally
too.
understand that. I want to talk about how police department deals with mental health issues. I have had several encounters with individuals that have either done crimes around my property, and I get it. We have a serious issue with trying to figure this balance out between the court system and assisting them and having a facility for them to be able to get the help they need. I'm going to talk a little bit about a personal experience because one of my family members is dealing with a mental health issue. And in my attempts to assist them, I literally followed the procedure of law where we did the paperwork to try to get them to the hospital so we could get a diagnosis as to what was happening with this individual. And I didn't realize two things happened. One, I realized how potentially dangerous that law is because it's so open. It is scary because the same way I genuinely was doing it to help someone malicious could use it to be vindictive. So it has to be cleaned up. But what also happened was in attempting to follow how the law was written,
2 minutes.
I called the police department. They told me to bring in the paperwork and I would get some assistance in getting this person to the hospital. When one officer showed up, I handed them the paper. I explained to them the help I need. The officer spent more of his time trying to convince me not to use that document because they were concerned about the stress of trying to go through this documentation and all the trouble the police department gets with using these types of medical documentation. And it's easier for me to just file a report against them and just have the person arrested. I said, what I will not do, I am aware this individual has mental issues. What I'm not going to do is put a criminal record against another Black person just so to make your job easier. Do you know what the officer did? The officer then refused to take the medical paperwork, walked over to my car, threw it back into my car up on top of my dashboard and drove off. Apparently, he wasn't aware I was an elected official. So when I picked up the phone and called into the police department to explain to them what happened, I am a citizen that followed the law. I had an officer that refused not only to follow the law, he pitched the paper back in my car and drove off. And so me touching this with a 10-foot pole. Shortly after, 6 officers arrived, and I was able to get the family member to the hospital, get him the help he needs, which is going to be continuing because he was able to get diagnosis, and they're going to be able have to get help for the rest of their lives. But I have a problem where if I was not a senator that picked up and called back and identified who I was, would I have been gotten the same help? Because if you treated me this way, I can't imagine what y'all doing to the average citizen in this territory. So I need to know what kind of sensitivity training is going to be happening in the police department. Have you identified to create a unit or something to start helping with these individuals that have mental issues that you're supposed to do the law to assist? I'm trying to figure that part out.
And time was called, but you may conclude.
I appreciate it, Mr. Chair. I will let them answer on your time. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Assistant Commissioner Olsko. Any problem that exists in the department, we must own it. We can always do better. Your situation and anybody else that's listening, if you experience something that you feel that could have been done better, I ask that you make a complaint to the department because that is the only way that we can fix these issues. I personally had a recent conversation with the Department of Health Commissioner Encarnacion, where we discussed the idea of creating a liaison position between the Department of Health and the PD. Because the police department, we are trained to bring situations under control. And sometimes the waters get muddy when it comes to a person with a psychological ailment. So thank you for that. That is something that's addressed.
Thank you.
The department does have crisis intervention training, and we also just certified 2 individuals in mental health first aid. That was done within the past month. So they, in turn, will put on some of the training for the department as well to aid in that. Thank you.
Thank you, fluctuating the time. All righty. So 6 minutes, we'll start with Senator Francis Heiliger. You're recognized for your 6 minutes, followed by Senator Balkes, then Senator Johnson.
afternoon. Good afternoon to my colleagues, to the people of the territory, to the testifiers, central staff, and my staff alike. My first set of questions has to do with community interaction when engaging officers in the police department. One of the things that, as a resident, and have gotten several complaints about, I need to know if this has been changed or has been upgraded. One of the most frustrating things that I've witnessed is I'm a victim of a crime. I come into the Virgin Islands Police Department to file a complaint. The first thing I am seeing is an officer that is also a receptionist. So I'm feeling like a victim. And I need to speak to someone to help me. So after I get a chance to speak to this officer, this is what happens. I'm talking to the officer, explaining to them my concern, the phone rings. Oh, please, VIPD, have a whole conversation, come back. I'm frustrated. I continue, oh, please, VIPD, have a whole conversation, come back. What do you think is happening right at that moment to a victim that came in to get help? When it almost feels like they're trying to get some assistance, but they're being disenfranchised at the moment because you all have made internal decisions to take the officers that are taking the reports to also answer the phones. And I did ask Commissioner Martinez this before, and he said it was something that they were planning to get fixed. So I'm trying to see, has that been done?
Yeah, Assistant Commissioner Elsko, I'm not aware that that has been corrected, but I am glad to hear that your concern. This is something that I can reach out to Commissioner Martinez to see exactly what steps we've taken to correct that.
So working in the department on a day-to-day basis, no one can tell me if this has been corrected or not, because the last time I was there was still happening.
Stephen Phillips, Chief of Police for St. Thomas and John Water. The problem is still there, ma'am. Senator. We had a PBX operator there before, and she retired, and hasn't been replaced as yet. We know we're working through the process. We'll work through it. I know I requested actually to HR to let's look for somebody to hire to put there as a PBX operator, because it is a distraction. A huge one, because the officers have to take a report, and actually when other people coming through the door also and answer the phone. Yeah. So what we have done, when we have enough resources, we actually have another officer or the supervisor will assist the desk officer to try to assist the aid in case of
So when are we gonna? So do you guys have a time frame for some permanent resolution for this? Because this has been going on for years. This is not something.
Chief, before you respond, I'm sorry. Media, can you raise the volume for the senator so we could hear her clearly on this end, please? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, go ahead, sir.
Yes, we, as I said, I know through HR, we request to put some, to hire someone for a PBX operator. So I refer that question to the HR director if that is happening.
Thank you. One of the things that we've had several conversations with the VIPD, and in listening to callers call into different talk shows, one of the things they kept saying, it has to do with marijuana and how stops happen in the territory. They're stating that, is it a policy that if you smell marijuana in the vicinity of a vehicle, that gives you the authority to search a vehicle? Because I'm trying to understand the clarity of how that works. Could you share a little bit with us how that works? Because I've heard a lot of dialogue where people are concerned, where there's a lot of vehicles being stopped and vehicles are being searched. And what is the rationale for even stopping the vehicle in the first place? Is they're utilizing and saying they just smelt marijuana. Could you share us a little bit how that works?
Well, when an officer stops a vehicle, they stop them for an infraction. That's the first proper call to PC. While doing the investigative stop, and if they smell marijuana, they go ask them if they if they utilizing marijuana.
That's not what I'm talking about.
Second.
I'm talking about the infraction is the scent of marijuana. That is what they're saying.
Usually the infraction is something on the vehicle.
Okay, so you're saying that they just look at
so that leads up to something else. So when we do different operations initiatives, right? We stop. Say we looking for infraction, heavy tint, a broken tail light, one light, or whatever the infraction is at the time. So sometimes an individual might have one infraction or might have more infractions. So during the investigative stop, you ask a question, and these things lead up to different situations.
Okay. So with how the law is written about just decriminalizing for you to have X amount, I think below a certain amount,
correct,
you can't really be arrested. Anything over something else. How do you guys then differentiate as to know if you do smell it? How do you even know what happens after that to know this person might actually have been utilizing more or have more on them versus what our law says would technically decriminalize that aspect of it?
So
time.
Assistant Commissioner Elsko. So the possession of marijuana is still against the law. Let me make that clear to the public. The possession of marijuana is still against the law. The word decriminalized does not mean it's lawful to possess marijuana. It's still controlled. The smell of marijuana does not determine the amount. So police still have the ability or the ability to approach a vehicle when they smell marijuana.
That is what I was talking about, because we've seen a lot of, or heard quite a bit of reporting that came out that officers are using just the scent as a reason to engage individuals. So I was asking, what is the policy? So you're saying just by the scent of it, they have the right to do it?
Well, the scent of marijuana determines that marijuana is present.
Okay.
The officer can then investigate further to determine the amount.
Okay. Well, thank you for clearing that up. That is what I was initially talking about. But thank you so much. I think I heard them say time. I wasn't sure. Okay.
Yes,
thank
but
you
if
so
you
much
have
for the time.
Yes, but if you have a wrap up, you could go ahead.
Well, this meeting has gone on for quite a while. We had 7 minutes the last time, and
So
now we're
if you
doing
don't
6.
have any, just say you don't. Thank you.
I'm trying to be mindful. Thank you very much.
Thank you.